Welcome to the third episode of Not That Important, where the panic has well and truly set in. Pakistan dumped out of the Asia Cup again. We're going to bring our reaction to the Sri Lanka game, our reaction to the news that has completely put a damper on this weekend, and that wasn't the fact that we got knocked out of the Asia Cup. It was the fact that Naseem Shah is likely ruled out of the World Cup, probably out for 6 months. Again, a huge blow to Pakistan's chances, a huge blow to a young career that was just starting to take shape and hit top form as well. So we'll discuss that as well. But we'll start with the game, Pakistan versus Sri Lanka. It was a rain-affected game, and I think before we even go into the scorecard, we need to call out the chaos that took place in the couple of days before that. Obviously, Haris Rauf was injured in the India game. We knew he would sit out, and rightfully so. We need him fully fit and firing for the World Cup, especially with the news of Naseem getting ruled out as well. So both of them were sitting out. Zaman Khan was drafted in. So was Shahnawaz Dahani, but he wasn't even able to make it to Sri Lanka in time for this game. So Zaman Khan was in, and Mohammad Wasim Jr., obviously, who's been warming the bench for quite a while, been a regular part of this 11 or this 15-man squad. With this new tradition of announcing the team a day in advance. Again, I feel like when your team is settled, that's okay, but when you're making like a lot of
I
changes,
don't like it,
I
man.
don't know,
I
I
don't
don't
like
know
it.
what the point of this is.
I don't know
But
why they
again, we
do
have a
it.
lot of things to talk about, so that's probably the least of our worries right now. Uh, Before we even talk about anything else, of course, the game overall ended up being a nail-biting encounter, just going down to the very last ball, where Sri Lanka, in heartbreaking fashion for us Pakistanis, took the win and got over the line. But to be fair, like over the course of the game, they were, or at least the second innings, they were definitely the better team for most of it. But Pakistan, in true Pakistan fashion, managed to pull things back right at the end, but just not enough to get over the line.
Fakhr was, I mean, people who go back to the first podcast and were like getting all emo talking about how he shouldn't be dropped. I mean, of course, like you're still going to keep him in the squad, but he looked like he needed a game off.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. Maybe it could have been something where it messed with his head, like he switched off thinking he wouldn't play, and then whatever half an hour before the game, knowing he had to play again. But he hasn't looked like himself. So I think a little bit of time off from the playing 11 was the right move. But then I don't know what the hell happened, man. One guy came up with spasms, and then Saul Shakil, like you so rightly said, like it must have been a bad flu or fever, whatever it was, for him to give up that kind of an opportunity.
Yeah, that
So
was
the
really
game
unlucky for
started with
him.
a bit of, it was really unlucky. And then I understand announcing the 11 before, like it's a sign of confidence, but I don't see any strategic advantage in it. If anything, I see the opposite. Why the hell would you want to tell the other team exactly who you're going to play?
Mhm.
I don't know why they do it, but they're doing it. Fair enough. But yeah, just the start to that game was kind of chaotic in that way. With Abdullah Shafiq randomly having an opportunity.
And yeah, he wasn't even meant to be opening because first of all he wasn't playing, and Mohammad
Yeah.
Haris was going to be opening with Imam. That was the team they announced. So it also knocked back Haris down the order as well, which again I don't know what impact it had on him. He didn't play well either. But overall, fine. We lost that early wicket of Fakhr, and then they put together a partnership. Abdullah Shafiq, honestly, in the early moments, he had a bit of a scare in the first over, nearly chopped it straight to mid on, but he survived that because it fell short. And then he really saw off the new ball. To be fair, like he recognized that the conditions were threatening, and that's what I really like about Abdullah. He really showed his promise and his potential and everything that he has to bring to the team here today, because not only can he dig in during the tough periods, but then he can convert that into a dominant performance with the bat. Like he can turn gears really quickly. That's something we've been speaking about a lot in the recent podcast about Kohli as well, the ability to see off an initial difficult period and then transition into a bit of a good spell for yourself as a batsman, getting boundaries, picking up singles and doubles. So I was really encouraged by what I saw there, and honestly, it gave me a lot of food for thought. For like, obviously, he didn't go on to get a big one, but I feel like we've seen enough of him in tests as well as in the PSL, where we know that when he gets going, he has the potential to really go big. And so what I really like about him is that he brings all those three dimensions to his batting, where he can bat in test match mode. He can suddenly transition into taking the bowlers on, especially the spinners. He used his feet really well. And then also the ability to bat big, which we know he can do from his test match performances with in Sri Lanka. So yeah, I'm really encouraged by what I see. And with Fakhr's form and him putting in this performance, I think he's a shoo-in for the World Cup now.
I think Abdullah Shafiq is an amazing talent. There's no doubt about that. Like we talk a lot about some of the, the Harry Brooks of the world, um, the Shubman Gills of the world. This guy is that, but he's done it in the test format. So he's kind of coming from the other way. He's got a lot of class about him. I think he I think he gave it away. I think if
100%.
he hit that century, there would have been, you're not keeping him out of the squad at that point. Um, but I really liked his intent, which is something we really lacked in the India game. I think my favorite moment of his innings was I think Walalage came on and he might have beaten him. I think, and then up until that point, Shafiq looked really nervy almost throughout however many balls he'd played. And then the next ball, he said he said, "What the hell, man? Like I'm just gonna come down." And he smacked
Mhm.
an amazing six. He used his feet really well, and it's something we see a lot from him in Test cricket. And he has the technique and everything you want to see in a young player to deal with testing conditions. And I was really impressed with how he played coming in to a knockout situation.
Yeah, and that was a really good battle between him and Avalage
Yeah,
because, like you said, he beat him a couple of times, but then Abdullah Shafiq took the initiative, came down the track, and bumped him straight down. And yeah, like I liked what I saw, and maybe that's something where Pakistan and Sri Lanka do play each other quite often. I'll be another battle to watch over the coming years, I think.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
But then Babar came into bat, and as Babar does, he looked in control. He looked good, and I thought we were on for a big one from him. But the struggles against spin continue. He just didn't get his foot down in time, beaten by the flight, I guess, with that
It's a beautiful
Velalge
ball, to
delivery.
be
It was a really
fair.
good ball, to be fair, but I don't know. He shouldn't be getting stumped there. I think that's something that Babar now needs to start looking at himself for, to
Yeah,
handle spin better.
yeah.
In the test matches against Sri Lanka, he didn't do so well either. But generally, that's something he's become a lot better at in terms of building those long innings in tests as well over the past few years. So the fact that he's falling to spin in one days is a little bit concerning, especially ahead of the World Cup and especially with those left arm spinners, whether it be the wrist spinners like Kuldeep or the conventional left arm spinners like Walalagid. We'll have to play a lot of them in the World Cup. So again, not worried because it's Barber, and he'll definitely cash in and perform when it counts. But yeah, just for the time being, a little bit of a bad patch for him, I guess you could say.
It's more annoying than anything else because, like you talked about, like it's weird. It's like almost with the. I think there's been a little bit of a trend now. Like you see anyone angling it into his pads, and of course, like the left arm spinner takes it away, but like the arm ball is something we've seen him get stuck on. With the off spinner, sometimes I'd say he plays leg spin better than off spin, and then even you see like in the India game, people trying to attack his stumps and bring the ball in. I think the scheme did the same thing as well. That innings was just annoying because he came out like the perfect number three batsman you
Mhm.
want to see, like coming out and counter attacking. He looked really really good. He looked at his best. He was very fluid. Um, but it's just one of those things where I try not to do this because there's so much pressure on the guy as well, and I say it um, more as a testament to how good he is. We need more from him. We need more from him, and he's capable of it, and he'll do it. I think he'll do it, inshallah. But if we're comparing you with the best ever, then we also have to demand that standard from you.
Yeah.
And I think he faces a lot of unfair criticism. But it's in these tournaments he has to, like in the upcoming World Cup, he needs to put his hand up, and I think
Mhm.
he will. But me demanding that as a fan is again, it's a testament to how good he is, more than
Exactly.
anything
And the
else.
thing is, of course, he gets unfair criticism all the time, but he is judged on a world-class level.
Yeah,
And once you get to that level, then we have to, and he obviously, through no fault of his own, has gotten to that level and he's maintained those levels for years. And I'm sure he'll continue to do so. And if anything, even get better. But yeah, once you get to that level, you're judged by certain standards, like we
yeah,
see this
yeah.
with footballers
He's
as
a
well. Once
victim
you
of
get
his
to
own
the
success.
absolute top. Like there's a lot expected of you, especially in big games. And
Yeah,
yeah, with these, with the World Cup final last year, with the Asia Cup this time, some of those big games, he hasn't been able to quite convert and get those big scores that we have
yeah.
come to expect of him. And so, again, with us being Pakistanis and getting a batsman of his quality or his level after so long, we naturally are so dependent on him and expect a lot, and that'll continue to be the case. But I'm pretty confident that he'll shake it off, and I'm expecting big things from Babar in this World Cup, and I'm hoping that he's able to get it done.
As am I. I think you can argue that the last three games he played, he got really good balls. That the spin
Mhm.
one was really good ball that kept a little bit low. But again, I
The
don't want to
Hardik
get into
Pandya
that.
ball was just like
It was a
something out of
beauty.
another, yeah, like it was a
That
seam
that
up
was a demon
deliveries.
ball.
It's
Yeah,
like very difficult to play those. Like swing, fine if it's like
yeah.
swinging a lot, you can still deal with it. But once it goes off the pitch, like it's very hard
It's different. But
to
then it
handle
gets
that.
into that thing, Hux, that I'm not going to bring up any direct comparisons here with anybody. But if you're if you are in that upper echelon like royalty of batting category, you do have to hold him to that standard. And I admit he got three very beautiful deliveries. Some would call all three of them unplayable. But you're Babar Azam, man. You gotta find a way. You gotta following up on your point about the last year's T20 World Cup. Again, it could be a blessing in disguise. Coach, now we have seen guys in the middle order step up. Like we know
Mhm.
now as fans, of course we rely on him. And if you're gonna ask any of us who we want to score, we're always gonna pick Babar. But now, Alhamdulillah, it's at a point where if he doesn't score, we know that that doesn't mean that the game is over.
100%. And
You
that's a good transition into what happened in this game because Babar got out, and then soon after, Abdullah, Haris, and Nawaz went in quick succession, and suddenly Pakistan were reeling at 130 for five. Um, Typical middle order collapse seemed on the cards. And when Iftikhar came into bat, but to be fair, him and especially Rizwan, like have to give credit where credit is due. Rizwan is just when he's in that sort of form, when he hits that shot and you hear the noise of the bat, I feel like there's no one in world cricket who can produce that sort of just bro. It's too good, and I love him.
after the rain break, Shay, I don't know if you noticed this, but he hit that first six, and it was the most arrogant thing I've ever seen. But coming from such a humble man, like he hit that rib cage shot. For anyone who doesn't understand Urdu, the Paslio wala shot, as he's termed it, he hit it, and then he immediately just I think he like stared at the point fielder, like he
Yeah,
looked around and he's just like, "Yo, I'm here." It was
I'm
one of
here.
those
And then he
shots,
went on
stamp of
to play
authority.
one of what I think was his best ODI innings. Like obviously he scored
Yeah,
100 before,
I think
but
you'd have to
like
put it up
this
there.
time 86 or 73, he took Pakistan to 252 for 7 at a stage where
Knockout match.
at one point it was looking like, 220 was like we were hoping for 220, and then he not only
Yeah.
got us there but took us even beyond, and so did Iftikhar. And Iftikhar's coming
Yeah,
good. Like his experience, I feel like of these conditions, in terms of like playing in Asia and subcontinent, him being a little older and having that experience under his belt, I feel like that's a good asset for this team to have. And if nothing else has come out of this Asia Cup, like Iftikhar has hands down cemented his
yeah.
team plays.
I, I get Misbah vibes from him, Shay.
Yeah, yeah, no, for
I
sure.
get Misbah vibes from him. Like when Misbah came into that like T20 World Cup, when he really emerged. I get FT. I still feel like they protect him from. I think the number six position when you the things you think about is I think he's the only one in the team who actually embodies those qualities in terms of his ability to hit pace and stuff at the end. And his reputation in domestic is as a finisher. Five and six is not always it's not always the biggest
Mm,
difference. I guess you could have him up the order, but I really like where he is. I like how they set him up uh, for him to come in those last play freely. That is in the last 12,
yeah.
15 overs. And when he's in, man, he's a really clean hitter.
Mhm.
And we've lacked this for a long time. A guy lower down the order who uh, field dimensions don't really matter for them. And he's one of those guys that if he anywhere near middles it, then it doesn't matter which ground in the world he's playing at because he's going to clear it by.
For sure. Okay, cool. Then we'll go into the second innings. Obviously, we got that early wicket courtesy of Shadab, and that's where he proves what a 3D cricketer he is and what an asset he is to this
Yeah,
Pakistan team. Batting, fielding, bowling, whatever. on the day the team needs, like he can produce, and he got that run out. Brilliant throw. Started off.
Amazing throw.
It
Amazing
was
throw.
outstanding, and again, you got the feeling at that point that Pakistan was gonna, you know, when Pakistan starts getting direct hits, bro, that's when things are going your way. So I was getting that feeling as well here. Of
Yeah.
course, it didn't prove to be the case. I think Kusal Mendes really came out with a point to prove. Like he played an outstanding knock. We praised Rizwan's innings earlier, but he probably played as good, if not a better innings as well. Almost just killed the game completely. Um,
Yeah.
and then of course Shadab getting Nisanka. Again, that was a good boost for him to get that wicket,
Yeah.
but he wasn't able to build on that. And the middle over struggles continue, and the game just went away from Pakistan in that period right there.
Before we move on, I think we have to acknowledge Sadira and Kushal Mendes. I
Mm.
mean, if they put on a batting exhibition,
Oh, 100%.
there's no other way to put it. Obviously, they were putting the bad balls away, but Pakistan couldn't find any dot balls for any point of that game through that middle phase because the way they ran and how they were placing the ball so effortlessly, like it was really in all senses of the term, it was a batting clinic,
And I
which I
think they
think we
played
have to
really well,
acknowledge.
and I don't want to take anything away from them, but I do feel like there's a lot to look at the Pakistan team for this as well. Firstly, field placings, like when the batsmen come in to bat, we give them easy singles and allow them to get set in.
Yeah,
As I think sometimes we need to think about what we would not like as batsmen if we were batting, right? So Barber needs to think about
yeah,
that. When you come in to the crease initially, like you don't want that long on back, you want mid on up, stop the single, build that
yeah,
pressure a little bit. So that's one aspect of things. And the second aspect is just Shadab's bowling, man. Like he's all over the place. Like he bowls a
yeah.
couple of good deliveries, and suddenly you think, okay, he's getting into the groove of things, but then he'll bowl a loosener, and the batsman will get two boundaries of the over. And there are other four balls which he bowls good. Like it doesn't matter, right? Because at that point you've released all the pressure. From the other end, Nawaz is trying to provide control, and he bowled well in this game. I
Both
feel like he did what he
excellently.
could. Like
Yeah,
he kept them to kept them very quiet from his end, to be honest, and he did what he could
yeah.
to build the pressure.
No
But
one
once
supported
Shadab's
him though.
yeah, once Shadav's bowling those looseners, like that pressure continues to be released. And then, of course, we didn't have Naseem or Haris. And you could tell that Babar like didn't really trust either Wasim or Zaman in the middle
Zaman.
overs,
Yeah,
which ended up contributing to Iftikhar bowling 8 overs in this game. And to be fair, like he bowled pretty well. Like I know in the initial phases, like he went for runs, but like as your like sixth bowling option when you're asked to do a job, I think he was doing okay. And then of course he got the breakthroughs at the end as well. And I think he was really enjoying the role. And I think it gives him even more confidence, and it gives Babar the confidence that hey, when if the car's bowling well, we can like keep him into the attack and let him bowl a few more overs. And I think this happened earlier in the Asia Cup as well, where Babar gave him an extra over and he got a breakthrough for Pakistan. So good on Ifti. Again, bringing a lot to the team at the moment.
and not just that, man. Like if you rewatch that game, like he changed the game in the sense that I don't know which one of his overs it was, but you had all these guys bowling at their 80, 90 kilometer speed, and if he came in and he started bowling flighted 70s at one point, and
Hmm.
that's actually when the team noticed that there was a little bit of break in the pitch because
Yeah,
there's no doubt that the pitch after the rain break really, really did start to assist the batters more. But if the flighting the ball showed that there was something in it, if you're brave enough to throw the ball up there,
hmm,
and the fact that it was even a decision on whether to bowl him or Shaheen the ninth is again a
yeah,
testament to how well he bowled. I think with Shadab, it's strange because by the time Shadab had bowled his ninth, but at that time in the game, I thought it was the correct thing to do because his last 2 or 3 overs were really good.
we're good. Yeah, he
But when
came
you
back
look
well.
when you look back at the game and you see that he is the guy who bowled nine and Nawaz didn't, that's the
Yeah,
only little question. Aside with some of the field placements, maybe on the decision making there. Again, I felt it was the right decision at that time. But you look back and you're like, Nawaz only bowled seven, and he was
yeah.
he was at his miserly best that day. He was he
No,
was
again, looking back,
he was
in
very tight.
hindsight, I completely agree with what you're saying. But again, when we were watching the game, I felt Babar was
It was
getting
the right
everything
thing at
spot
that
on.
point.
And
Yeah,
yeah, so Ifti got us back in the game then. But regardless of how he performed, the last it wouldn't have gone down to the last over if it wasn't for those 2 wickets from Shaheen. So he comes clutch again, as he always does. You know, bringing the game to around a ball and then getting those 2 wickets, and getting Sri Lanka into the tail, even though like the panic had started to set in from their perspective. Shaheen's the perfect bowler to bring on at that time, and he took full advantage of
Yeah.
it and really got it down to that last over. Yeah.
I just have a quick point about Shaheen as well. That like again, he I think is getting almost typecasted as this guy who runs in and knocks over stumps with the new ball, and the criticism has always been in the middle overs, the depth. But since this last PSL, and we saw it in the final as well, he's not only dependent on his first spell anymore.
Yeah.
He has the skills. He has the presence, the game presence, and the game awareness to really make a difference at those death overs. So I think that's there might have been times where he wasn't as disciplined with the new ball as we would have liked, but you
Mhm.
have to recognize the growth you're seeing in the other phases of the game from
And
him.
I don't love to talk about intangibles a lot of the time, but with Shaheen, there's something there. Like you could tell
There's
in the
something
PSL,
there.
like he came out to bat, he hit those sixes, he got Lahore Qalandars
Yeah,
over the
yeah,
line. He came out to bowl in the final of the PSL, he got them over the line. Here again,
over the
like
line.
even if it's not his day, like this is a guy who you will hand the ball to, you will hand the bat to, or
Yeah,
you will
yeah,
even
yeah,
if you need a catch taken in the field, he will get it done in that crunch moment. And
yeah.
that's
And it
something
was
that
never
bodes
a
well for
doubt.
Pakistan ahead of the World Cup, especially with Naseem's injury. We need Shaheen
Absolutely.
at his peak.
And for me, it was never a doubt as to who was
Mhm.
bowling. If you ask
Oh,
me, I'm willing to lose a tournament on on Shaheen's bowling than if Takhar is in that situation.
yeah, 100%.
And like you talk about with the intangibles, like I remember before that over, like I don't know if it was 11 of 12, 12 of
Mhm.
12, I think.
Yeah,
I was like, whoever the people I was watching with, I'm like, we need some Wasim Wakar shit right here.
yeah,
That's the only
literally,
way. And
and
lo and behold, he lived up
he
to that in
delivered
that over.
exactly. Well, it's like when Pakistan gets on a roll in their bowling, defending targets, sometimes you just feel like everything will click into place, and it did over here. And we'd spoken about what Zaman brings to the team. We were not sure about what he brings in middle overs and with a new ball, but with the depth, we were 100% convinced. Even when there were like 4 or 5 overs to go, I knew like Zaman Khan is going to be bowling the last over because that's what he does. If the
Yeah,
game was going to get stretched at that point, he's done it in the PSL. Maybe we left him with like too few to defend, but he did his absolute best. And to be fair,
he had
like he
enough.
should
I
have,
think
he did
he
all
had
he
enough
could to get us over
For
the
him, he
line,
had enough.
and he
Yeah,
like probably should have. He just unlucky, edge for four on the last ball or second last ball when they needed 6 of 2. It
yeah,
really kills you because we'd
yeah.
almost given up on the game, and then just when you thought you'd lost, the
And that's the
Pakistan
only
gives you that hope
difference,
to drag you back in,
just
and
to take it
then
away.
just to take it
And
away.
that's the only difference I would say that I've seen in international cricket as compared to T20, like League T20 cricket with Zaman Khan. He bowled like all of those variations that you've seen him get Qalandars over the line with in the past couple of years. He's done it, I think, 3 or 4 times across franchises. The only difference that I don't know if you would have seen in a Lahore Qalandar shirt was after that ball went for four, you almost saw it on his face that
Yeah.
I don't know if he believed the same way
I
anymore
honestly,
after.
I disagree with that because like obviously he wears his heart on his sleeve, right? He's like us,
Yeah,
like he's like us if we were playing. Like he in that moment he reacted. We don't like to see that from players. You want them to stay calm in that situation. But then
yeah,
and I was thinking
much
the
easier
same thing
said
that
than
you
done.
were. But then I saw the way he like hit the ground and I was like, this guy's coming back and bowling a
Yeah, yeah,
banger of a
facts,
next
facts,
delivery.
facts.
Unfortunately, like I think Babar said in the press conference as well because there was criticism of the field set like
Yeah,
he didn't get the ball where he wanted it to go, and because of that, it was an easy shot, and they got those
yeah.
runs and they got over the line.
The
But
last one
apart from
maybe
that,
wasn't his best, but yeah, that's not something I'll blame him
nothing.
for because at that point, I mean, even the ball that went for four, like he went full and wide
Mhm.
again, and
Yeah,
for all intents and purposes, like
I love what this kid
he
brings
beat
to the
us
table,
there. I love what he brings to
and
the table, man.
yeah,
He's a
there.
savage. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just saying it goes back to what we were saying the day before that like there's just something about this guy. Like
Yeah,
maybe if you look at him strictly from like a talent point of view, maybe he won't stick out to you the same way Nasanullah does or some of these other guys do. But it goes back to those intangible things like game on the line. You trust him. I never felt for a second felt that he wouldn't be able to defend that last over. And man, it's an interesting thing because the third man, I was saying it at the beginning of the over, that
Mm.
just make sure third man's back, make sure third man's back.
Yeah. I knew it was
I
gonna go through that. I knew there was gonna be a edge
there's
for
always
four at
an
some point, but yeah.
yeah. I've looked back at some of the other last overs he's bowled though with Lahore, and he a lot of times he doesn't have the third man back, so I don't
Mm.
know. But I just remember when we were playing when I played a little bit of academy cricket back in the day. I remember we had a very similar situation where we lost the game in the last over because of an edge that went through the third man area, and then our coach, who was a former first class cricketer, like he obviously he was yelling at us and everything after the game, but he spent a considerable amount of time yelling at the captain for not having the third man back at that
What do you
time.
think in that situation?
Uh,
Because that's an interesting scenario. Like, do you think you have like a very fine third man that
bro, you see the ball get etched for four so many
so
times in
many
the last
times? Yeah,
over,
that's what I'm thinking. Because I
but
feel like that would be like a crucial position,
yeah, I don't
especially if
know
you're
if it's
bowling
a hard or
full.
fast.
Because the thing is, if you're bowling full, it's very hard to get a shot to like deep point, right? So
Yeah,
like you don't really need that
yeah,
fielder.
yeah.
So you could have
I
a
don't know if it's a hard or fast rule, man, but like again, it goes to the guy, it goes to the bowler. Like if the
yeah.
bowler is comfortable with that, like there's gonna be a gap somewhere. That is
Mm,
just, I think, the least comfortable area for me.
mm,
Like having a gap, like again, it comes down to what the bowler wanted at that point. If you
mm,
ask me, I want a third man there all the time because you
yeah.
saw it like Naseem in that game against Afghanistan toward the end. Like it's the same thing. You see it all the time when people are swinging desperately. That invariably ends up being the area through which you get the
Mm,
boundary. And we've
yep.
seen it so many times. But what
Exactly.
can you do? He
No,
took it as far
100%.
as he could, and again, man, to come in your first game, and it's not like he lost his composure at any point. Like the ball went through
No.
third man for four, right? Like he could have gotten hit for six on the first ball, the second
Yeah.
ball. Like he took it to the very end, and I think that's as much as you can
Testament to
ask
him.
for from
Yeah.
a guy on debut.
100%. I think overall, looking at this game, I think Sri Lanka, the way they batted, deserved to win the
They
game.
deserved it. Yeah,
I think looking back on the Asia Cup as a whole for Pakistan, again, we went into it quite confident as the number one ODI side. We've left it with injuries, with more questions and answers, with a lot to think about. But if you look at it overall, I think the India game was obviously an absolute like trashing. It was like
yeah,
we like to say an aberration. Apart from that, I think we did well throughout. Like even the Sri Lanka game, we were missing Naseem and Haris, and we almost got
yeah,
it over the line in the end.
dude.
The main
Yeah,
concern
we
is just
had
the middle overs bowlers from the spinners, and we're gonna talk about that obviously when we pick our World Cup squad as well. Looking forward, I think that's what comes out of this Asia Cup as the major concerns, apart from of course Naseem's injury, are the spinners in the middle overs and Fakhar Zaman's form.
I think you and I had a very similar reaction that by the end of that whole ordeal with Sri Lanka and everything, as soon as Naseem, the news about him being probably out of the World Cup came out,
I didn't give a
I,
shit about the
I
Asia Cup. I'm not
no,
gonna lie.
we didn't give
Like,
a crap about the Asia Cup anymore. Not the India game, not the Sri Lanka game. It's you really you feel bad for him, and he's a guy actually like you pray for because
mm,
I
everything
mean,
he's
I
been
won't get
through,
into the story. Yeah, like whoever doesn't know a story, I mean, you guys go look it up. This guy's endured a lot. He's endured a lot in his life so far. And at times you just feel like the poor kid can't catch a break. Like not only when he bowls, like you see so many times catches dropped or him not finding the edge or DRS working against him, and these types of things from a guy who's so supremely talented. And the rare thing about Naseem Shah, it's not just talent. Like he has the mind that goes with it. You can tell he's an exceptional thinker of the game.
he's
He's
a
a really
complete
really
bowler.
mature person. He's a complete
New
bowler,
ball,
and
middle overs, death overs, he
everything
delivers every
because
format.
of which he's virtually irreplaceable. You need two guys to replace Naseem Shah. What
Mm.
he brings to the table, and then again, it sucks for the World Cup. We could get in another episode what it does to our chances, but more than anything, you feel for the person, and you just hope that he gets fit and healthy, and things go a lot better for him, inshallah, going forward.
Yep, absolutely. Prayers for Naseem. Hopefully, this isn't a serious injury. Even if he's missing the World Cup, hopefully he's back soon. We have a lot of cricket ahead of us. He has a big career ahead of us. And again, as Nasser
Inshallah.
Hussain said in the T20 World Cup when Shaheen went down injured, like this is the young man's career. Like at the end of the day, nothing else matters. Obviously for
Yeah.
us, it's a big blow, but hopefully he'll be back and he'll have plenty of World Cups and plenty of matches to win for Pakistan in the future, inshallah.